liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here and giving up your time to attend our board meeting today. Our first item to be addressed is our public hearing concerning the proposed service adjustments that we've been discussing over the past few months. As we all know, we have received a large number of citizen comments opposing all of the different option and service reductions, but we are offering this one final opportunity for our citizens to speak. We're going to be taking a vote today, members of the board, on whether or not to approve the reductions right after the hearing is over. Individuals wishing to make a presentation today are required to complete a yellow comment card, just like this, which Rachel has up here. And this card can be given to Rachel either now or anytime during the public hearing. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I know it's not a lot of time, but we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. So please do not continue once I've let you know that your time is up. A group can designate a spokesperson by completing the appropriate form and presenting it to the staff, Rachel, right up here. The spokesperson can then speak on behalf of the group for 3 minutes for each member of the group present in the audience who waives the right to speak up to a maximum of 10 minutes, okay? Presentations will be limited to only the service reductions proposed for which this public hearing is being held. The public hearing will not be closed until all individuals have a desire to speak. Please raise your hand if you require a public hearing speaker card, and one will be provided to you by the staff. Anyone here who hasn't filled it out that needs one? The gentleman in the front, Rachel, please give him a card. Anyone else? And here comes another one. Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else? Well, if you change your mind while people are speaking and you'd like to fill out a card, please just bring it on up to Rachel and you'll be allowed to speak. That's what we're here for, to hear what everyone has to say. So this public hearing has been scheduled so that the general public may be given the opportunity to comment on the proposed service adjustments. A paid advertisement concerning this public hearing appeared in the Tampa Bay Times on March 20th, 2019. Notices were posted at Park Street Terminal, Grand Central Station, Williams Park, Pinellas Park Transit Center, PSTA Administrative Headquarters, and on all PSTA buses on March 20th. A press release announcing the public hearing was emailed or faxed to major media contacts and social service agencies on March 21st. A notice regarding the public hearing was posted on PSTA's website on March 20th. To date, staff has received 307 comments concerning the proposal. And before we start hearing from the public, Cassandra Borchers has a presentation that she wishes to make. Cassandra?
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
As you know, we've been talking about this for quite some time. We have also been working over the last few years to streamline our entire system and have already eliminated a number of underproductive segments of our system, including routes like the 444. Those routes were very underperforming. In this case, staff has taken a look at some lower performing routes in light of our budget discussion and the projected deficits that we have over a period of years. Staff took a look at some options that we have to reduce service in areas that are, I would not say, unproductive, but just lower performing. In this case, the staff recommendation for eliminating routes would include Route 22, Route 58, the Safety Harbor Connector, the Dunedin Palm Harbor Connector, and the East Lake Shuttle. We'd also recommend some changes to unproductive segments of routes, and I'll show you maps of these in just a moment, with portions of the 16, the 38, and the Route 5 to be kept and portions to be eliminated. We would also recommend that we eliminate DART service in areas which we have no federal obligation to provide it. We have been providing service across the entire county for DART patrons, but under federal law, we are required to provide complimentary paratransit service within 3/4 of a mile of our fixed route service. So as our fixed route network changes, so does our obligation to provide complimentary paratransit service. For the routes that we would recommend to keep portions of, you can see on the map, the portions in dotted lines would be the portions to be recommended for elimination, and the solid lines recommended to be consolidated and retained in the system. So for the western portion of the 38 and the southern portion of the 16, we would combine these into a singular route. For the Route 5 on the eastern section from Grand Central to downtown St. Petersburg, combine this with the existing Route 9 to create a one-seat ride from Gateway Mall to a Grand Central station. And then the western portion of Route 5, if these route eliminations are kept and approved today, then we would eliminate the western section. If they are not approved today, we would retain this western section, but still keep it as an independent segment within the system, taking that eastern portion and combining it with the Route 9 regardless. For the DART service changes, you can see the areas of the county that would no longer be served by DART. These include portions of East Lake, Tarpon Springs, Safety Harbor, Shore Acres, and some other smaller portions of the county. We have received, as of this morning, 309 comments. You have a summary of those comments in front of you today. We have received them in all different forms, emails, letters, petitions, and we have received comments on every single route, every single proposal that we have. We did hold a public hearing on April 10th and had a number of speakers. People were able to tell their stories of how they use the system, whether that's to go to school or to work or to life-sustaining activities like medical appointments and grocery shopping. We also received comments from local businesses whose employees are using the system, as well as some service agencies across the county. Normally, staff gives you one recommendation which to discuss. But given that this is a very important discussion, we do have a couple of options for you today. Option A is to approve the service reductions as proposed for the June service change. And these savings would be put into our budget cycle, and Debbie would be able to present them to you over the coming months. The other option is to look at some new revenue sources that we could add to our budget cycle. And if we had those discussions over the next couple months and were able to come to some conclusion by July, they would be able to be put into our fiscal year 20 budget cycle. If there was no resolution by July, we would recommend that we go ahead and make these cuts in October for the next budget cycle. Before I turn it over to Rachel and back to the chair, with your permission, Chair Long, I'd like to ask Commissioner Gerard to give the summary of the Planning Committee's discussion and their recommendation.
Thank you, Cassandra. Commissioner Gerard?
Yeah, the Planning Committee met on April 17th and heard the same presentation that you just heard. We unanimously agreed to support option B, delaying the cuts and continuing discussions between the county and the Forward Pinellas and PSTA to identify some new sources of funding by July.
That's the end of your report.
That is the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Now we shall proceed? Okay, good. All right. The first speaker that I would like to call up is Mark O'Hara, because I understand he will need to leave shortly thereafter, and he is the chair of our track committee. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioner Long and esteemed board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak first so that I can go to work later. At the board meeting for the track committee, Bob Lasher, External Affairs Officer, summarized the proposed service cuts that we just heard about and reported that PSTA has heard from an unprecedented number of riders who objected to the proposed eliminations. After a brief discussion, the track committee unanimously recommended to approve option B, just as the planning committee did, secure $5 million in annual operating funds by July 2019 to avoid preferred service reductions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. And now we will hear from Walter Slupecki. Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Miller, members of the board. My name is Walter Slupecki, 2000 Gandy Boulevard North, apartment 19, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33702. I am here to speak out against the proposed service reductions. As someone in Pinellas who's been here since 2015 and has been working to reduce personal vehicle dependency by using PSTA more, using bicycle, walking, I see that PSTA has been able to fit many aspects of my daily lifestyle quite well. I am by far, like many other people in this room, not very happy regarding the service reductions, specifically to 16, 22, and 58. While I do not directly depend on these routes, they do provide me with additional travel options, whether going to work, critical appointments, things like that. I know that there are a lot more people within the county, more than PSTA realizes, that rely on these routes as their lifelines. They get to work, they get to school, they get to critical appointments, groceries, you name it. And to have these routes axed off the board would cause a detrimental negative impact to these riders' lives, causing increases in travel times, they may be missing work, they may miss appointments, and for choice riders like myself, that could cause us to go back to our personal vehicles and never use the bus system again. So I really would hate to have to see these cuts be enacted. I would strongly recommend the board choose option B to explore additional funding avenues, maybe raise the county gas tax, for instance, and also call on those of you on the board who are also elected officials to have a discussion on a possible another sales tax referendum countywide for a longer-term funding option before the state legislature hinders or eliminates that ability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, next, I'd like to call up Austin Llewellyn. Austin, are you here? I am. Very good. Please come forward. Take your time. And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Austin Llewellyn. I reside at 1042 Mainsail Way in Palm Harbor. My interest is in the elimination of DART. I recently had occasion to use DART in the month of March 48 times, one-way trips. This was for cancer radiation treatment. The cost to me at my $675 rate at DART was about $324. If I had to have paid that fee out of pocket without DART, I would have paid $30 flat each way, plus $2 a mile. The cost for the cancer treatment would have been $1,920 and would have made that pretty much impossible for me to proceed with. My doctors are currently located within 5 miles of my residence. Without DART, that cost to make a medical doctor visit is going to be $80 each. Looking ahead, I have recently volunteered to work at hospice 4 hours a week. The cost to me now to do that without DART would be $80 for a 4-hour volunteer session. I'm somewhat puzzled as to why DART is made available to those patrons closest to a bus route and people who may have the possibility of using the bus, and those of us who do not have access to the bus are being eliminated. Maybe it's time to think back inside the box and simply raise the rate that we charge to all customers to keep the service affordable to all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Now I would like to call up Harry Charus. I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly, but I tried my best. Good morning.
My name is Harry Scharouse,
Charus.
Yes.
Thank you.
and I live at 5220 Springwood Boulevard in Palace Park. I do not like this one to change these routes. They should not be changed. Telling it it's to, oh, you're going to save money, that's a lie. You're going to use the same amount of money if you take, chop out number 5, put it in one part, and people get off 5 to get on the other bus, you know, whatever, getting people off on the buses. You're still using the same amount of money, don't you know that? It's a fact. You're the worst bus company on the Forbes list. You're in the top, bottom, you're in the bottom 10 on Forbes. You can't go up. You want to make money, there is a way. One card inside the bus should be saying how much your bus fare is, that's all you need. You could put in cards that say Publix, special events, hotels, there's restaurants. There's a lot of money out there. The museums there, they have enough money to help sponsor public transportation. Many of these companies want to sponsor, they like sponsoring public transportation in other cities. This is what you need, advertisement and the buses to generate more revenue. Now, the thing is this, on 74 route, I'd like to see every other bus going down to the Social Security office on Gandy, because it's a long walk from 16th and 94th up to that building. Been used that 444. Putting a bus to go around there. Don't tell me it's too narrow to go around, but I've seen buses trying to squeeze in to this place, go around this, go back to U-turn, out this transit center, trying to squeeze around 2 buses at Largo Terminal Center, and one bus ever going in the wrong direction, get in the park terminal, and it's with narrow spacing, and it's more spacing going around that building for a bus. If the old 444 bus can go around the bus, why not extending 74 to service there? Now, I want to see some new bus stop signs. There's a company called Refiller. It's just opening this month. And it's on, when you go 22nd Street, past Tyrone Mall, you get where the bus is going around the loop. It turns right, then it turns left. At first, there's a stop sign. There, put a bus stop there, so people that want to go to this new shop. Refiller is a place you go buy, not the container and your shampoo. You buy shampoo there and take it home and put it in a container at home. And the thing is this, it's a very new store. That's only the nearest spot be bus stop, getting off at pedestrian trail and walk away down there about 12 blocks. You can walk 6 blocks.
Mr. Charus, your time is up, please.
Well, I want to
your
say,
comments
I'm going to say 2 minutes. I want bus stop at 66 is Tyrone, and the bus stop at 30th and Tyrone needs to move it up, because it's blocking the driveway to the shops on the corner.
Thank you, Mr. Charus. Your comments have been duly noted. Thank you very much. Min Smith, please come forward. Min Smith. Good morning. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is David Smith, but I'm a minister at Travis Rest. I'm under Pastor Green. But I just come to just say that bus 16 and 22 and 5 and 38 need to stay. Because when you catch 16, you can catch 16 going to downtown. Somebody might want to get off to catch 22, or somebody might want to get off and catch 5. When you catch 16 going to Gateway Mall, somebody might want to get off and catch 38. Then you got young mothers that don't have no car to get their children to school. Then you got elders don't have a way to get to the doctor or to get to the store, to get groceries. So I'm standing on the behalf of the people that don't have cars to try to get where they need to get to. So I'm asking you not to take 16, not to take 22, not to take bus 5, and not to take 38. God bless you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Yvonne Ross, please come forward. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad I came. I'm surprised. My name's Yvonne Ross, 220 32nd Avenue North. I'm surprised about 38 elimination of the loop. There are lots of old people that ride it from Presbyterian Towers to Northeast Shopping Center, Publix. That shopping center has all kinds of UPS, it has a pizza store, it has everything. All these old people, me included, I talk to those people at the bus stop. Okay, so it also eliminates my ability to get to my doctor. With the elimination of that loop and the 22 and the 38, it takes me 2 and 3 buses now to get most places. I can get to Tyrone on the 4, to Gateway, and then I have to transfer. I can get downtown, but then I have to transfer to Grand Central to transfer to where I'm going. So with the changes, I'm using 3 buses to get one place. Yes, I'm retired, I'm very fortunate, but I don't want to spend 4 hours getting to one place. And so I don't have a route then to get to 34th Street North, 34th Street, which gives me all shopping options. From 22, I can walk to Aldi's, I can walk to Dollar Tree, I can walk to a couple thrift stores. From 38, I get to my doctor's. So for me, and a lot of the old people, our connections pretty soon, and because we don't have Williams Park connections, I don't know where to catch half the buses. And so the ones that I can see at a stop, oh, there's a 79, I could catch it there. But you have to know where to catch all these buses. And you know what? Without a phone, you almost don't know what to do. You need a phone to ride the buses. Because we're blessed to have any buses. But to eliminate what you're looking at, I see as a problem for a lot of people.
Thank you very much for your comments. Melissa Curry, please come forward. And next up is Marcia Stable-Esky. Good morning, Melissa. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Melissa Curry. I live at 2185 16th Avenue South, Apartment 9. I work at St. Anthony Hospital, and I'm concerned about Bus 5. I have to ride that bus every day to work. I have a bad knee. I already got to go to my orthopedic because of that. As soon as I go back to my primary doctor, I cannot walk up 16th Street every day to work if you stop bus 5. That's a blessing. That bus is a blessing to me. That job is a blessing to me. St. Anthony Hospital been good to me. They hired me, they accepted me, and I would like to keep working there. I cannot walk to work. It's gonna hurt my knee. I'm already going through a lot as it is, trying to make it. I can't afford a car. I can't afford car insurance right now. I have to save money to get a car later down the line so I could do better. Right now, all I can do is pay on my rent, my lights, my cable bill, and my phone bill, and buy a $70 bus pass to get to work. I appreciate it if y'all let bus 5 stay the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marcia Stabileski, and then Mark Shaw, or Shay, I'm not sure.
Thank you for hearing me today. I'm concerned about 11. I don't see that it was mentioned, but on the stop at 72nd Avenue and US 19 for the 11, I called customer service and asked why it had been eliminated. They said it was a mistake. The number had been taken off by mistake, and that's been there for months, so no one has used it because it hasn't been available. The bus drivers said that they don't stop there anymore. When I called customer service, they said it was a mistake and they would replace the number, but they said it would disappear in June. It would no longer be there. So that's a very important stop because at that stop, that's the only bus that you can get to the PSTA complex from that area. And if you need to get another bus going that way, you have to go down to the Pinellas Terminal, or close to it. And that means you have to walk a few blocks to 70th Avenue, wait for the light, cross that, wait for the light for US 19, and cross that. That's a long light. Then you have to cross 70th Avenue and wait for the light there and cross that. And then you have to walk down to the terminal or close to it. I think there's a little stop close to it. But that's a long walk for people, especially if they have problems with their legs. So I am concerned about it being eliminated in June. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Mark Shaw? And then Robin Shaw after him. Good morning.
Hi, my name is
Hi.
Mark Shaw. I live at 10970 Oakdale Terrace in Seminole. I'm here to speak on behalf of the 58 bus. I've been riding the 58 bus since 2009. I used to work at Raytheon, which is at Bryan Dairy and Belcher, and I used to be able to catch it in the mornings. Now I work at ConMed, which is just down the street, and I'm able to catch the same bus to and from work. My wife and I both, we ride the same bus, and we've been doing it now since 2009. I really would appreciate it if y'all could keep this bus running. I've looked at the other routes, and it wouldn't be able to get me to work on time. It would miss it just by 5 minutes each time. And right now, the 58 gets me to work to where I actually have about maybe 15 minutes to where I can actually choke down a cup of coffee before I get started. Not only that, the 58 provides a lot of people with rides. I know that there's some people that live in some of the senior living areas over by Seminole Mall, where I live. And they use that bus to catch it to the Bardmore Medical Center up there for appointments and that kind of a thing. And if they were to lose that bus, they would most likely have to take Uber or a taxi or something like that, which is just inconvenient. So, and I've also met with people who ride the 300, I think it's the 300, back and forth from Tampa and catch it so that they can get around the county here. My wife and I, we've actually collected a bunch of names of people that ride the bus and would like to continue to see that bus running because there's a lot of people that work. There's a lot of businesses up and down Bryan Dairy Road and 118th. It's all just, you know, there's so much business up there, and it just surprises me that you would want to get rid of a bus route where the only people that are actually riding it are people that are either going to school or they're going to work. So please just keep our bus. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Robin Shaw? Robin? And then Natalie Lemke after Robin.
Hi, my name's Robin Shaw. I live at 10970 Oakdale Terrace in Seminole, 33772. I thank you for hopefully still sticking with Plan B to try and get more funding for the routes. I know that I've been watching the different meetings that y'all have been having and the concerns that not everyone in the community, the county, is putting forth funding to PSTA, which is kind of concerning to me because we all get to ride it. I go to the beaches myself. I go to the Intercounty, St. Pete Beach, but I'm finding out that they don't help with their ad valorem taxes. All of us pooled our ad valorem taxes to get $4 million to keep all of us running, the DART, the connectors, the 58, all these routes are stepping up to be eliminated because not everyone in the county is stepping up to help us. Not everyone in the community wants to raise a penny for taxes because how does it help me? You are all my family in this community, every single one of you. I've seen it one time or another, and I love your children. I love your grandchildren. I want you to get to know me and my grandchildren. We ride the buses all the time. We're not trash on the side of the road waiting. I'm sorry if we inconvenience you while you're in your cars and you can go to work, go to a store. You don't have to plan ahead for anything, but we do. We plan ahead for our grandchildren, our children, our own rides, our own necessity daily. I understand that the mentality of people riding in the cars don't understand that the world is changing. Global warming does affect Florida. We need to stop driving the gas guzzlers. Y'all are driving gas guzzlers, SUVs, and if you can afford the luxury of a hybrid, thank God, kudos to you. I can't, I need the public bus service because it keeps my footprint down. I am proud of that. I am a member of Raytheon's union, and I'm proud of the standing that we have done for our community, the environment, and I love what y'all are doing for the community and the environment with the looper. But please charge maybe $1 for the looper, $2. It's still cheaper than a normal bus route. All-day pass for $2 maybe. Generate more revenue. I love the idea of advertising, different places around. Of course, they would have to, have stringent bylaws that would follow for the community standards, but please do find funding. And I beg everyone in the communities, please vote yes on funding PSTA and other necessary road work that we do need in this community. That is what those pennies are going for, the entire community. And yes, it does affect us. There's a pothole on 113th in front of Publix with all those new shops and everything, and I'm concerned about cars hitting that pothole. So everyone's penny for Pinellas.
Robin,
Please.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Vote
But your-
yes.
Your comments have been duly noted. Thank you very much. Natalie Lemke?
Good morning. My name is Natalie Lemke, and the address is 618 94th Avenue North, St. Petersburg. I am the owner of Seabreeze Adult Day Center. We provide daytime care to people with cognitive and physical disabilities in the St. Pete area. Many of our members use the DART program to get to our center, and I'm here to speak on behalf of them and the greater disabled community. I first want to thank PSTA for providing DART. It is an amazing service. It is really the lifeline to many of our seniors and disabled people in the community. It allows them to retain their independence as much as possible by accessing services like medical care, going to dialysis, maybe attending a place of worship, coming to a day center like ours that allows them to stay socially involved in the community. And also a lot of people use it for accessing employment. We have an employee at our center who is disabled, and due to her disability, she cannot drive or use public transportation. And we certainly want to encourage people with disability to partake in the workforce here in Pinellas County and contribute to the greater good of the community. Many times when people don't have access to affordable transportation, people with disability, they become at high risk of being placed in a facility. And I think we all agree we would not want that to happen. The issue, as the gentleman stated earlier too, DART is one of the only affordable ways for disabled people to get around in the county. We priced out a ride for one of our members outside of the DART program through Care Ride, and within just a few miles, it was over $30 an hour. So certainly also if somebody goes to work using DART and maybe makes $10 an hour, works 6 to 8 hours a day, and is asked to pay $60 for transportation, I mean, I think we all agree that is just totally unaffordable and unacceptable. So I just want to plead with the board to please do not cut any services to the DART program, and I do appreciate, as it was mentioned, that federally you may not have to access all the areas you do, but it really is the right thing to do. We need to be here for our community, for the people that have disabilities and really have no other option to get around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Thiel. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Michael Teal. I live at 2411 First Street Northeast. I've lived in my house for 17 years. I've watched the buses run up and down my street every day for the first 12 years I lived there because I was a stay-at-home dad. I'm retired from the Coast Guard. Now I work part-time. Those buses are empty most of the time going by my house. Not only are they empty, they speed. The speed limit on my street is 25 miles an hour. This past year, I've spent a year getting the city to put in speed bumps because I've clocked cars doing 50 miles an hour down my street. Buses doing 35 miles an hour down my street. So if you're going to keep this route, maybe the idea is, because it's low ridership, use a smaller vehicle. Doesn't make any sense to me if there's only one person on a bus driving that route to run a big city bus. Use smaller vehicles where the routes don't require 15 to 25 people on a vehicle. If you're going to keep the route, start using smaller vehicles. They have all these new Sprinter vans, inexpensive to operate, extremely reliable. Why not switch to smaller vehicles? Less maintenance. Look at Amazon. Amazon just put, I don't know how many vans they've got from Mercedes to run all their deliveries. But that's my idea. But if you're going to the way I see it, the ridership is too low, eliminate it, or if you're going to keep it, get smaller vehicles.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Narita Perez, please come forward. And next will be Dylan Stafford.
Hi, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And I also speak on behalf of other students at St. Petersburg College. My name is Narita Perez. I live at 300 2nd Avenue Southeast, slip 2 SD 152. And it's a privilege to have the bus number 5 to be able to make it to college every day. And from downtown St. Pete all the way to St. Petersburg College, that's the best bus that I can take that gets me to classes on time. And it would be so sad to lose it because I would have to walk quite a bit to get other buses that take a much longer time to get to the college. Right now, the bus number 5, I can get there between 40 to 50 minutes and make it to class on time. If I take another bus, it will take me an hour and 15 minutes, and I'll be half an hour late to class. So I really appreciate if you guys consider keeping the bus that actually brings a lot of students to the college And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Dylan Stafford? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dylan Stafford. I'm here on behalf of Congressman Billy Crist. Wanted to advocate for a viable option out to Seminole. We have a lot of constituents that come out to our office, veterans in need, people in need of Social Security assistance, and they rely on the bus to get out to these meetings and fill out the paperwork for us to work on this. Also, we see a lot of students out there pulling up on the bus, getting off at the stop out there. As a college student, I rode the Heart at USF Tampa. I see that same endeavor through SPC students, and I think it's a huge, huge relief for students who don't have the money for a car or don't have the money to pay an Uber every time. So I know that whether it's the Bryan Dairy route, the Route 58, or any other, we need a viable option for people to get out to Seminole so that they can not have their lives interrupted. I know there's a lot of other people mentioning the businesses and getting to work. I think as long as there is a viable route to get to their jobs, to get to SPC Seminole, that should be the focus. As fellow public servants, I know you guys know our core function is to assist people in making their lives easier, and that's what we're here to do. So I'd like, any discussions to further a viable route to Seminole and the other routes mentioned. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Colby Gilbert? And next will be Chase Hollowell.
Good morning. My name is Colby Gilbert. I live at 6451 4th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm here on behalf of SPC and their club Ethics in Action. I'm here in support of option B to secure funding to keep the bus routes. These buses provide service to people who have not many options for transportation. Eliminating these routes, cutting back these routes will affect the elderly who need the buses to get the health care they need. It'll affect the impoverished who are trying to get to work and keep themselves in a situation where they can survive day-to-day life. It affects students who are pursuing an education to secure themselves a future. Eliminating these bus routes is not the moral thing to do. We need to do the right thing and secure funding to keep these bus routes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your time coming here this morning. Chase Hollowell, and then next will be Douglas Town. Chase, please come forward. Good morning. Good morning.
My name is Chase Hollowell. I live at 12290 91st Avenue North, Seminole, Florida, 33772. I also go to SPC. I think you all know that. And thank you for being here and volunteering your time as well. I know nobody wants option A. I know you don't. So let's try to do the right thing. We shouldn't be in this position. So first of all, if you can bear with me, I have a little metaphor. I wanted to get a Tesla. Joke, I don't have a license. 2019 model, 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, 315-mile range, $128,900. Think I'm going to get my dad to co-sign for it. And I'm going to give him his personal information. Guess what? Dad won't help. Dad disowned me. Tesla wants their money. On April 8th, there was an article written. It says PSTA misleads the feds, $1.5 million. The deficit is 1.7. So the other thing I was curious about is the property tax revenue. It was up $3.74 million in 2019 compared to 14. At least that's the projection on the budget, the one that's been adopted. The other thing, Bus 58 should have more people on it. In 2012, the schedule was changed. It leaves the Gateway Mall at 4:05, getting to Seminole City Center at 5:10. Another one leaves at 5:30, getting to Seminole City Center at 6:35. So you have a gap, 1 hour and 25 minutes going west, 1 hour and 5 minutes going east, when people get out of work between, generally, if you're lucky, 4:30, 5 and 6 is the main time People are denied jobs on that route specifically because of scheduling. Since 2012, think of all the people that might be working there. The big elephant in the room is the socioeconomic factor in our community. People who live here make an average of $49,000 a year. That's their general voting public. Unfortunately, the people that rely on public transportation, we're a very small minority compared to that. So we, have to really struggle to get our voices heard. Pinellas County as a whole spends 10% of the budget on transportation, mostly going to airports, roads, and infrastructure, 3% to human services like mental health, like the lady that mentioned earlier. So what can we do to make it better? Marketing should be held accountable. Post companies serve that will hire people along the routes. People know their jobs there. Hey, they're going to take the bus to it. Make people want to ride the bus. How do you get them to do that? No traffic hassles. Get to work on time. Work on the bus.
Mr.
Read a
Hollowell?
book or call your dad and ask him to take you back.
Thank you, Mr. Hollowell. Your comments are duly taken. Douglas Town? Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the council. Douglas Town, I live at 5142 77th Street in St. Petersburg. I'm here today representing the Pinellas Council of the Blind. As a matter of fact, the council, of course, objects to anything that will curtail DART services. We do, of course, understand the hard decisions that responsible government has to make. Having said that, we have two questions. First of all, it's our understanding that some 600 people are eligible for DART along these routes. About 200 of them, according to your statistics, use DART on a regular basis. And I would ask that those numbers be verified. What we would like to know is, what's your plan? If DART services are removed, none of us want to read that Susie lost her job or John lost his way to get to school and had to drop out. So I would ask that you have a proactive plan to make sure that none of those things happen. If you have to cut bus routes, that means cutting DART. So all Pinellas Council of the Blind asks is that you have a plan and make it a proactive plan. Make sure that the people who are on DART know what's happening and what their alternative is going to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Carl Heisenbuttel, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly. My name is Carl Heisenbuttel. I've been riding the buses for over 14 years now, Wapping. I also have had a car. I'm partially disabled. If you cut the DART for one reason, you're going to have people walking, using their wheelchairs or walkers for 3/4 of a mile when they might get stuck in a crosswalk and get hit by a car or a bus or a truck. That's ridiculous, unheard of. Secondly, I have some issues about safety with the bus service, connecting buses, safety at Park Street Bus Terminal, cleanliness and use of a bathroom at Park Street Terminal. I had to clean the bathroom. I also had to train new bus drivers on the route because they don't know the route. They're sent out willy-nilly, not knowing the bus routes, not knowing where to turn. I've actually sat in my seat and known that the bus has missed a turn without even looking up. I have a unique God-given gift. It's a memory for numbers. I can make all your buses connect by using algebraic equation, so you don't have to wait an hour for a bus. 360 is going one direction towards Clearbrook Mall, but only waiting a half an hour or more for one coming back the other way. I have a unique God-given gift. It's called the memory like an elephant. I can see it or hear a number one time and memorize it. Matter of fact, his phone number is 727-318-6770. I don't even have to look at my phone right now. I have over 25 bus routes memorized by number. I know when the bus is coming based on the fact that I can dial 727-540-1900. I'm a professional caregiver. I've been called a professional taxi driver. I've been here 14 years. I know that area better than any bus driver out there. Yet there are safety concerns about how they drive the bus, jerking the bus, taking off smoothly. What's wrong? Okay, you want to fix the bus system? I know statistics. 1 million people live here in Pinellas County. You probably have over 2,000 or 5,000 businesses. Raise $1 for that $5 million from 1 million citizens. You'll have your budget.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Nancy. Nancy, I'm not sure how to pronounce, I can't read it, number one, but number two, please come forward, state your name and address. And you are speaking, my understanding is, for 2 other people?
My husband's here too, yes.
Okay, then you will have 6 minutes.
Nancy Klingenpil, and I live at 1225 Scottsdale Street, Dunedin, Florida. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm talking in support of the Dunedin Palm Harbor connector. I have a handicapped son and he rides public transportation every day to get to work, and he wants to be to work on time, and he's always getting on time, and so he uses has used the Palm Harbor Dunedin connector. And the only problem with that is because you've tried to make it too many things, it doesn't always run on schedule. It goes off the route, and therefore he misses his connections, and if he misses his connection, he's late for work. So I think you need to think about whether that's even worthwhile running it to go off schedule and keep it running on schedule or not. And I also, he relies on this. I'm sure there are a lot of other people that rely on this that are handicapped. I also want to say that I was trying to find out what you were doing to the DART system, and I could not find that out. I called, I talked to people, I posted on Facebook, and nobody would tell me what was happening with DART, and he relies on DART also. So anyway, I want to thank you for allowing me to say this, and hopefully you can figure out a way to keep these systems going. Thank you.
And Miss Nancy, if you would speak to Cassandra Borger back there, she's the green dress with the scarf. I think she can share with you the information you're requesting about DART.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for being here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a position for discussion before we take a vote. Members of the board, any questions, comments, thoughts? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Justice, thank you.
We had talked at one of the meetings about what it would actually entail in the process for going to referendum as far as the non-participating municipalities. And I don't know if we ever really got an answer on that as far as what the process would be, the dual referendum, all those kind of issues, and what kind of involvement would it be. I know it was kind of, some have said, well, it's not really worth it, it's only $4 million, but to me, $4 million is kind of worth at least investigating to the point of knowing how much it's going to cost us in staff and money, et cetera, to that point.
So the answer to that question is yes, there has been a lot of discussion with staff about that process and with the attorney. And we are, as you know, I think you know, that Brad and our new administrator, Barry Burton, and Whit Blanton, who I see here in the audience, are working on a plan, a big, bold plan, to bring forward at our upcoming discussion on transportation funding solutions, which I have been trying and pushing for to have in the month of April. But, we have to work through the chair to schedule those things, and thus far, I don't believe that it's been scheduled, but we are pushing for that to take place sooner rather than later. And Mr. Burton is waiting for information from Brad and from Whit. And Whit, I don't know if you have additional information that you would like to share, other than what I've already spoken about, and then when he finishes, we'll move over to Brad. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, board members. Whit Blanton with Ford Pinellas.
Yes, we have had I think a couple of very productive meetings with Brad and Barry Burton of the county. And I have shared with the county administrator a strategy of corridor investments. We've got some costs on capital and operating for improving service in the county that would identify core premium corridors for service improvements. And we are refining those costs now. The county in parallel is looking at all means of funding transportation, which could include everything from raising the gas tax to going back to the voters with a referendum maybe in a year or so, or looking at other mechanisms, even taking dollars from the general fund. So all things are on the table. We're continuing to have those meetings, and my understanding is the next step is to schedule a workshop with the Board of County Commissioners, and I was thinking that that might be in May. It might end up being in June. But the idea would be to have that workshop, present all those options on the table, get some policy direction from the Board of County Commissioners, and then figure out from there exactly what the priorities would be. But essentially what the county commissioners asked me to do is provide a prioritized list of where the county should invest to focus on workforce development and serving people who need access to job training, job skills development, or access to employment. And that's what we've provided.
Madam Chair, just so, and when we have that big, bold discussion, all options are on the table.
Correct.
But I want to make sure that we have the backup material that we know, so we can make a decision at that meeting about the process for that referendum for the non-participating.
Absolutely, absolutely. Brad, do you want to speak to the issue? Thank you very much. Oh.
Yeah, so specifically related to the process that might be implemented to have the non-participating cities levy the ad valorem that the rest of the communities in Pinellas County do. I think Alan can speak more specifically, but I've tasked Alan and the county attorney have been talking about the very more specific details. I gave a presentation to the board about the general process, but hopefully we'll have, Alan can speak to some more details before that county commission meeting to make sure that you have that. But it is really a decision by the county commission whether to take that policy decision or, as Whit said, one of the other options.
Thank you. And before I go to the attorney, there's several board members that have asked to speak. So Patty?
As the chairman of Transportation Disadvantaged, I'm very proud that many of the people that are here today got to speak. But I can promise you, if you go to our meeting, you will hear this repeated over and over and over again. First time we've had assisted living daycare present. And so while I'm desperately worried about those people that are not working or need to work, and those that need to go for cancer care, and those that need to go to work, we also have a segment that we've never had represented before, and those are those persons that need to go to daycare. So thank you, Ms. Lemke. And I just, it's like, that's what taxes are all about, is taking care of those people that need assistance in daily living. And that is daily living. The very day that you or your family get stuck at home, whatever your home is, and you can't get out, you will understand. It's horrible, and it makes people need mental health counseling just because they can't leave home. So thank you all for your input, and please recognize that the 15 members of this board do care about you and do care about the services and are working hard. Thank you, Commissioner Justice, for bringing that up. We do need to know where we need to go, and we do want to get where you need to go. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Rice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to thank Mark O'Hara, our track committee chairperson, for the work you do and the work that you put into submitting a recommendation to the board. And I also wanted to join my colleagues in thanking every single person who came to speak today. I know it takes a lot of time out of your regular schedule to come here and sit down, and definitely want to know that each and every one of you was heard. And I think every one of you to a person has very compelling stories, experiences, and reasoning, and I greatly appreciate it. I know I've said this before, but I just think it's always good to acknowledge that, a lot of times when we're talking about PSTA, our opponents tend to paint us as a big government agency, our staff people as bureaucrats, board members as somehow like some, puppets of big government. And, but really the heart of what we do in our mission statement is community service, and it's serving you. And we heard compelling stories about people who need to get to schools, people who need to get to doctor's appointments, radiation treatments, people who need to get to jobs. And we heard a lot about the importance of, I think we always do a good job of treating our riders with dignity. And that's a really important thing. It's the human heart of the mission that we do as a transit agency. So I wanted to really underline that, because I think as the county commissioners plan to move ahead and look at what some of the options are for helping out PSTA, just to remember that the core of what we do is community service for the citizens of Pinellas County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Bennett, and then Commissioner Gerard.
Thank you, Chairman Long. We're going to vote in a few minutes on these options A or B, and I'm concerned that if we approved option B, what happens in July if we don't raise the $5 million? Does that mean we're going to do this all over again? And we'll go through this same discussion, and we'll cut, because we maybe only raise $3 million more, we would cut 25 or 30% of the routes instead of the 100%. What is the answer to that question?
The answer to your question, Commissioner Bennett, is that our mission here is to try to do whatever we can within our authority to not cut service as it exists today. Over the course of the time that I've been on PSTA, we have consistently been trying to be more efficient, more effective, while continuing to diminish our service area to our citizens. And so the bottom line here is we have come to a tipping point where we have to make a decision. And right now, we are trying to buy some time to give all the greatest minds on this issue an opportunity to put a solid plan together that is driven by data, that will allow us to not make preliminary decisions that kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and then sacrifice a broader plan that could have solved the solution for years into the future, which is what I think our mission is and what we all deeply want to do. So.
Thank you. Michael, I think was his name, made the comment about smaller buses. I would like to see us think about that avenue of approach. I've seen some of the large 60-foot buses going up and down the street with 5 passengers on them, and a smaller bus would certainly be more efficient, quicker, and maybe that's something we should look at for the future. Instead of continuing to buy the $1 million buses, maybe we could buy 5 smaller buses.
And that's a very significant fact. None of us like to see that. Keep in mind that when you see that on a particular place in the route, you could go 2 or 3 or 4 miles down further, and all of a sudden, the bus is filled with people. So people are getting off and getting on all of the way along, and when you're seeing those, what people like to refer to as empty buses, it's because a lot of people have either been on it and gotten off or are about to get on as the bus goes further along. Commissioner Gerard.
Yeah, I wanted to also thank everyone who came out today and those who came out to the other public hearings. We hear you, and I think you can hear us, that there are very active discussions going on, lots of research being done. And I feel very confident that we will come up with a solution to these cuts and be thinking long-term about expansion of it, which is what we really need. We all know that. And I want to encourage you, I want to make a motion to approve option B, but I also want to encourage you to talk not just to us, but to your neighbors. You know, you may see things that are going to come up on a ballot in some form, either for a sales tax or for the expansion to those cities that aren't paying in right now, and believe me, that irritates the heck out of us. It's not under our control, it's not under the control of this board, but it is really annoying. So that may be one of the solutions, but we may decide to put that one off for something bigger. But either way, I would hope that you will continue to talk to your neighbors and your family members about how much you need these services and how much you need them expanded, because that's where we really need to go.
Thank you very much for your comments.
And so that was a motion.
Okay, but before we vote, before we get the second, there are several
Okay.
folks that would continue to want to. Did you have something, Commissioner Barkley, that you want?
I was going to second.
Well, let's hear from everyone first. Commissioner Eggers.
Okay. Well, I would like to echo Commissioner Bennett's comment about continuing to explore how we use our reserves for for making capital purchases. You know, we're going to be looking outside PSTA for some assistance, whatever that is, and we're going to have that really robust conversation. But for some reason, we have felt over the last 3 years, 5 years, and will continue in that direction, to spend capital-wise on buses that we could otherwise be putting into reserves. So I would like to just consider the smaller bus option a little bit stronger. I'd like to know what the bus turnover is going to be in the next 5 years and what we can do to add to reserves. Because again, whether you talk about operating costs across PSTA, whether you talk about the capital purchases that we're making, again, we're talking about riders here and ridership and people needing these services, and yet we continue to go down a line where we're expending $250,000 more on a bus than we need to. So I think there's things that we can do internally as we go out and have the external conversation, because I think people are looking for us to be as responsible as we can with all of our dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eggers. Commissioner Albritton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome.
Just some comments here. I wanted to thank everybody that came forward today with their stories. You know, we do need, our job here is to really have the best bus service we can have. And I think everybody on the board here is passionate about doing better than we're doing and not cutting service. We'll have a vote here in a minute on that, but I really think that it's a good thing to, when the community comes forward and bolsters that fact for us that, you know, we really need to do the right thing. And we've had some great discussions on this over the past few months, and I think that we're going to keep finding that solution. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And to wrap it up, I don't see any other, are you finished, Commissioner Albritton? Okay, good. I want to share a factoid with you that might be relative in terms of your thinking as we move forward, because I'm sure you realize that we're all individual human beings here, and these decisions are incredibly difficult to make. And with that said, please keep in mind that PSTA provides the best service that we are able to do with the dollars that we have. And you don't drive ridership when you are consistently cutting your routes. What folks look for is efficiency and dependability so they know that they can get back and forth to work. With that said, our total budget is approximately $80 million. In any other similar-sized community across the United States, a bus system with the numbers of population that we have in our county, they spend, and their budget is approximately $220 million. So when you think about that discrepancy, you know that no matter what we do, we are terribly underfunded in Pinellas County. And while no one likes to talk about taxes, somehow or other, it has taken on a dirty word. Taxes is what you pay to live in a civilized society. And I think it's really important to ask yourselves and ask your friends and neighbors, what is government for? It'll be a really interesting little conversation to hear from folks what they think government is really for. Because the mantra from so many elected officials is, well, we have to cut taxes. And, you know, again, it's not a good thing or a fun thing for an elected official to talk about. But at what point do you cut taxes so severely and still be able to provide the quality of life that we have in this county today? To me, government is in place to do those things for our citizens that individually we cannot afford to do on our own. And public transportation is one of those things. So when people say to you, we can't afford it, it'll never be profitable, that is bunk. Public transportation around the world has always been and always will be subsidized. There is no way one individual can pay for public transportation all by themselves. And so when we come forward with a final plan, please try to keep those things in mind. It isn't free, and everyone should be participating in raising the quality of life in this county. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I could go on and on and on about the region. That's important too. Commissioner Eggers is shaking his head at me, so I'll stop now. Commissioner Barkley.
I'd like to second Commissioner Gerard's motion.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the board at this time? Anybody? Okay. Rachel, would you please, the thing that we're voting on is option A or option B, and the motion is to vote on option B. Okay? Please cast your vote. Okay, then. We will be moving forward on option B and using our reserves to carry us forward for as long as we can, or at least until July. All right? That should make everyone here very happy because there will be no cuts at this time. Thank you. Okay, so now do we have any further public comment? All right.
I would like to say that you did a good job today, and you saved the bus.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, our committee updates, Forward Pinellas, Commissioner Eggers.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
And despite the fact that you saw me shaking my head, I certainly appreciate your your comments.
Thank you.
I just, I always, like in the comments that I made, I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to preserve our reserves and to do the
Absolutely.
work. So, yeah, just a couple comments. I have a lot that we could go over, but I'll just be brief so that we can keep the meeting moving along. At the meeting on April 10th, we consider a list of our draft annual priorities, and we'll be bringing those back in June for some further discussion. New priorities include a bus replacement capital for PSTA, US 19 transit corridor, investments to support enhanced transit service from Eckerd College to the Gateway area, and funding for an intermodal center in the city of Clearwater. Once the For Pinellas Board approves the priority list in June, it will be submitted to the Florida FDOT, or FDOT, for consideration and inclusion in its next 5-year work plan based on funding. That's all I've got for today.
Terrific. Thank you so much for that report. Any comments, questions, observations about the Forward Pinellas report? No? All right, then may I have a motion, please, for consent? Anything to pull? Oh,
Second.
excellent. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Rachel, please open the voting board. Okay. Then that passes unanimously. Excellent. I'm sorry? You're missing two?
Yes, I'm a yes.
Commissioner Rice is a yes. There we go. That passes unanimously. All right, and now we are going to hear from Abhishek Dayal on our bus stop construction services. No?
Central Avenue BRT.
Oh my gosh, we're talking about the Central Avenue BRT. Are you giving us an update on St. Pete Beach?
It's part of that. So good morning, board members. My name is Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management Office, and also the project manager for the Central Avenue Rapid Transit Project. As you know, PSTA has explored looking at this corridor for enhanced transit service for almost a decade because this is the highest ridership corridor in the region. And in the past couple of years, PSTA has also been working with the Federal Transit Administration to really advance this project through the Small Starts process, which is a multi-year and a multi-step process, as you're aware. So we recently did complete 30% design on this project, and just last month, FTA gave this project a medium-high rating, which is the second highest rating that a project can get from amongst all the projects around the country. So we're very excited about that. We are moving forward with the project design and rapidly moving towards 60% design. And so the project is on target to obtain a Small Starts grant agreement with FTA later this year. We've been having several conference calls on a monthly basis with FTA staff, both at the headquarters as well as the regional offices in Atlanta. And speaking of regional offices, I did have the opportunity to meet with FTA staff in Atlanta, accompanied by Debbie Leas, our Chief Financial Officer, and met with FTA staff to give them an update on where the project is progressing. FTA staff was very pleased with the progress, and they're really looking forward to working with us to start the formal oversight process, which is something that FTA has to do on the way to getting to a grant agreement. So we're really excited with FTA, with working with FTA on that. Now, you might have also heard about the recent media coverage about the project related to local funding commitment and some of the design concerns that we heard as part of the media coverage. So a couple of weeks ago, Chair Long and Brad made a presentation to the City of St. Pete Beach Commission to talk about the concerns that were brought up, particularly as it relates to the local funding that was identified originally in the financial plan that was submitted to FTA for this project. There was a lot of discussion at the commission, and thanks to your presentation, there was also a lot of clarification made as far as the local funding is concerned and the design issues. So at the end of that commission meeting, the commission did not vote on the resolution opposing the BRT and instead asked their new city manager to work with PSTA to draft a formal agreement to discuss some of the concerns and memorialize those terms of engagement related to BRT and the transit services along the Pass-a-Grille area, into an agreement. So since then, we have met with Mr. Alex Ray on some of those terms, and we've had some really productive discussions with him, and we are developing an agreement with him on those specific areas of concern. So.
Excellent.
So we're happy with that. And, overall, I do remain optimistic on this project, and we remain on target to get to a grant agreement by the end of this year. And so I really look forward to providing you with more updates in the future. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Terrific. Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know you said we're at 60% of design?
We just completed 30%, so we are
30%.
working towards 60% design.
And so will we continue, I went to one of the public meetings at one of the churches in the area. Will we continue to have those kind of meetings as we get to each stage of design, or was that kind of the time?
No, we will plan on having similar forums at every design milestone.
Okay. And then just the other thing was a concern is, I know that we've been having a lot of meetings with St. Pete Beach over the last 24 months. So it was concerning to me of how there was a gap in understanding of what the plan was and what the plan was from where we were and where they are. So hopefully you're all going down there and talking to them in person. Commissioner Long, I appreciate that. Hopefully that will alleviate those kind of misunderstandings in the future.
Well, Commissioner Justice, I couldn't be more appreciative of your bringing that up, because it's a good example of no matter how hard you try to move the ball, there's always going to be a different perspective. And it was stunning to me after I read that article, I think we all probably read it in the Times, to learn that we have had 20, as of that evening when we went down to St. Pete Beach, we had 29 meetings with the elected officials or the staff or spoken to their council. 29 meetings. So how anyone could walk away and say they didn't know X, Y, or Z was very startling to me. And it was a great learning experience to hear the comments that were made by some of the elected officials about their perceptions of some of the work that has gone on this board, and how it instilled in me hopefully what will be a larger sensitivity to the way in which we message and how we frame our thought process, because clearly the board has changed a lot from the time that I first came on here, but we did have a very unfortunate comment made at one of our public meetings that the folks in St. Pete Beach have never let go of, and it caused a lot of hurt feelings. And so, we did apologize for that and asked respectfully that they allow us to work a little harder to build better and stronger relationships and move forward so that we could do the best that we could for the city and our region. Yes.
And there's two parts. One, obviously, there was the concern about the representation of financial commitment. That's one issue. But I guess the second part is that I know, at least what we're reading, is that we've talked about maybe having different sized buses and those kind of things. But I want to make sure that if we've gone into it thinking we need X size bus to make this a successful project, and then suddenly we're gonna go to a Y size bus, is that project still gonna be successful, or are we just kind of going on the fly a little bit here? So
No, those conversations are ongoing, and Brad has been down and had several meetings with the new city manager. They have new leadership there. He hopefully will have a much bigger, broader perspective on how he provides assistance to us to better be able to help them, because he has a deep knowledge of public transit from where he just came from, correct? Do you want to speak to the issue, Brad?
Yeah, maybe just to.
Yeah.
All those issues that you have just identified, we have already met with the city manager and spoke about it at the commission meeting. Number one, on the funding, originally it was our plan, and 2 mayors ago, there was the idea that they would essentially perhaps swap some of the funding they're already paying to us to pay for the BRT. But last year, we decided, with the change in leadership and the discussions, and as Commissioner Long said, many discussions, that we were not going to be able to anticipate funding from them. So we removed it from our plans, notified the FTA. Unfortunately, the FTA is in Washington, D.C., and only updates their plans once a year. But they have acknowledged that the financial plan has changed. And it will likely change further between now and when we get our grant. As far as the issues related to the buses and issues like that, I think Commissioner Long said it correctly. I believe it's a new opportunity for us in St. Pete Beach with the new city manager and the discussion sort of that we had on April 9th to refresh the relationship between PSTA and at least the way they're perceiving us. And we don't want to make decisions that are not based on, sound data. And so we have looked at the ridership profile or the forecast for the BRT. The Central Avenue trolley, which follows the same corridor, just had its highest ridership ever in its history in March. So there is good ridership on this thing. We think that the smaller vehicles will be able to handle that ridership. Maybe in the peak periods, there might be standees, but then I think if we have a new relationship in St. Pete Beach than the one that we've had, they'll recognize that too. And if like we all hope, that ridership is an incredible success, then they will understand that we need maybe a different kind of vehicle down the road, As of right now, I think there's just a question of trust or respect, and so we're gonna, just kind of start into this relationship with smaller vehicles, with an open mind, open communication between PSTA and St. Pete Beach. And I think, I'm very optimistic that we'll reach an agreement with them, hopefully in the next month, to allow for a very successful project.
Thank you.
And they gave us until March 14th to come back with a...
May 14th.
May, I meant May, I apologize. May 14th to come back down with our new improved opportunities for them, and we're working hard on that, aren't we, Brad?
Yeah.
So look forward to an update in May at our board meeting. All right, anybody else? Anything? Okay. All right, future, do you have anything else, Brad? Performance update or? Thank you, Abhishek.
Just 2 things. One, I would like to just express my gratitude to Whit Blanton, the executive director of Ford Pinellas, and the county administrator Barry Burton for being willing to have this discussion. It started with that, thanks to Whit, that great workshop we had back in January in Seminole, and we've just had this really good discussion that we're ramping up and having more frequent meetings I see popping up on my calendar in the next couple weeks and months. I am optimistic that we will reach a solution. I think, as some of the county commissioners have said, I think there's broad support for making something happen. There's just lots of different options. I've had meetings now with 6 of the 7 county commissioners, and I'll get all 7 tomorrow. And all the county commissioners have sort of very positive things to say, but different ideas on what should be done. So I think the next couple of ones will be coalescing around maybe the best recommendation for everybody. Second, I just wanted to point out that we've had we did have a good month of ridership in March. Of course, March and April are our peak periods for spring break. And certainly the trolley service over to Clearwater Beach during the month of March, the Toronto Blue Jays spring training trolleys up in Dunedin, and the Central Avenue trolley down in St. Pete all saw very, very high ridership. And I think at least in Clearwater's case, because right now is their peak with their Sugar Sands Festival, April will be very strong on those tourist-oriented services. And last, I just want to thank our board members, Vince Cox and Gina Driscoll, for participating in our social media campaign, or it's not really ours, it was sponsored by the St. Pete Downtown Partnership called Car Free St. Pete, where they held a little contest where if you posted with the hashtag Car Free St. Pete, and you could ride transit like I did and Vince did. You could ride your bike. You could just be walking down the street. You could be walking from your car, I guess, to your house, but that would be kind of cheating. But if you posted that on social media, then you got in the running for a free T-shirt, which my kids made fun of me for. They thought it should be an iPad, but a free T-shirt every day was given out to somebody, and we had over 100 people participate in the event, and that was all wrapped around sort of Earth Day which was on Monday, and will go until the end of this month. So thank you guys for helping out with that. With that concludes my comments.
All right. Any other business to come before the board? Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was gonna send you an email, but I wanted to give you the heads up that I need to, resign from I'm on the planning committee, but the scheduling conflict is just seeming to be a constant thing with another board that I chair. So if there's another PSTA member that wants to serve on the planning, I think that would be best.
All right, well then, is there anyone here at the moment that has a burning desire to sit on the planning committee?
We'll have to take a look at it.
Any desire at all? Oh, Mr. Cox.
It's right after finance, though.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay.
Another T-shirt.
Thank you, Commissioner Justice, for letting us know that. Josh, did I see you raise your hand?
When we're ready for board member comments, sure.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to that very shortly, like right now. Gina, do you have any comments for the good of the order?
Yes, so thank you, Brad,
Please put your mic.
Sorry. Thanks, Brad, for mentioning the Car Free St. Pete Challenge for the month of April. I've really been enjoying it, and I'm grateful to the St. Petersburg Downtown Partnership and to the staff here at PSTA for putting together such a great campaign. For the entire month of April, those who have been challenged for this we're trying to drive our cars less, not abandon them completely, but just thinking about different ways to get from point A to point B. And, for me personally, that has meant a lot more walking and using the looper trolley. I took nickel ride to get to a business event last night, and it was fantastic. And then, of course, using our bike share program. So just trying to incorporate all of those different ways to get around has been a great excuse to talk about it out there, and it's really sparking an excellent conversation about about these great alternatives and just rethinking how we, get to meetings and meeting up with friends and running errands and things like that. So thanks so much. The T-shirt rocks. And I'm still, it's still going until through April 30th. But I am proud to say that I've gotten a lot of steps in, and I actually have dropped a pant size this month.
Oh, my.
So I'm going to keep going after April 30th with this challenge. Thank you.
That's great. Commissioner Albritton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I'm real happy with the way the vote went today, and we need to get to work on figuring out how we can raise some money so we don't have to cut services in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Bennett?
Yes, I certainly concur with what David just said, that I'm looking forward as a member of the Finance Committee to looking at the alternatives that we're going to come up with to try to discontinue or to not cancel some of the future bus services.
Sorry. Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to highlight one of the points a member of the public made. They talked about potentially connecting riders with employers by allowing employers to show job opportunities on the routes. I thought that was a great idea, and whether that's partnering with CareerSource as well. But we have folks that are in these corridors, and as WIT starts looking at these economic opportunity corridors, connecting the people at the beginning and the end seems to make sense, and we're in a good position to do that. The second point I wanted to make, when we hear a lot from the public, and when I'm out in the public, not everyone understands how we pay for what we pay for, where the money comes from, where it can go, where it can't go, who's paying for what, and that leads to a misperception in the public, who are our best advocates for transit, as to what we're doing or what we're not doing. And so I think it's incumbent on us to do a better job of sharing where these funds come from. At the first public meeting, we heard a lot of folks talk about the downtown looper. And why can't they just charge? Why is it free? Well, that's a contracted service. It's not free. It's paid for by other organizations. And so, but our public doesn't know that. So I think we can probably do a better job of helping our public advocate for us by knowing what our own limitations are as well.
Thank you, Mr. Schulman. Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I thought that was right on target. The comment that was made about, connecting our services to business opportunities or job locations, I think is really critical. And I really appreciate the work that WIT's doing with Brad to develop that kind of that marketing piece as to what we're really going to be doing. And we got to continue working on developing that plan for our residents, whether we're talking about the gas tax increase, which is, got some funds but not a lot, or whether it's adding communities or a half a penny or whatever it ends up being. At some point, we're going to have to develop a really compelling story that excites people about PSTA. There's all kinds of layers there, whether it's going to work, whether it's, going to, letting our seniors be more independent or whatever it is. And I'm on the board, and I don't hear enough of that. And I think we need to have more of that kind of conversation so that we can really engage and get people excited about something that is truly important to a lot of folks and growing in importance to our business community, that we have access to more transit. But again, it's like, out in the world out there, it's crickets. It's quiet. They don't hear all of this conversation. We're immersed in it. And so somehow we've got to get that message out. And I know we've got some good people, and I continue to say that between the county, between MPO, or Fort Pinellas, and between us, we have a lot of marketing smart people that can really try to craft that message. But I really encourage us to keep working in that regard, because at some point they're going to say, okay, so tell me your plan. And I want to be able to tell them something that's compelling at every layer of need in our community. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Eggers. And I think it's important to let everyone know as well, that in these conversations that are going on with the county administrator, he has asked to ensure that when we talk about solutions, we're talking about not only solutions for transportation, but for economic development and for affordable housing. So we're working on a three-legged stool. One of those solutions drives answers for the next two, and so they're interrelated totally. And so that's going to be a very large piece of our story, Commissioner Eggers, when we start talking about those three prongs of the stool. Commissioner Gerard.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to appreciate what Commissioner Schulman was saying. I think it's the great dilemma of government servants to try to explain where the money comes from and why it can't go here, or it's a never-ending discussion. And it can be very complex. But at the planning committee the other day, and I think Brad thought I was a little crazy, but I suggested maybe we have a PSTA Citizens Academy where we bring people in and expose them to what PSTA is all about. You know, you said something before that the budget for PSTA is $80 million, and that sounds like a lot of money, but it's stretched about as thin as it can be right now, and it's way, way below what it needs to be. So I just think...
I think you got something going there.
Well, I think, you know, it helps to build advocates, it helps to have an educated public, you know, not that y'all aren't educated, but it can be very complicated. And I would probably benefit from going through it myself, and I've been on the board for 3 years.
Well, and you know what, that's a great idea, because the sheriff has an academy, the county has academy, a lot of the municipalities do. It's a way to really educate our citizens about exactly what goes on behind the scenes. Great idea. I love that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barkley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think there are too many people who spoke earlier who are here now, but I just want to say publicly that thank you very much. None of you typically are in the realm of public speaking, and I know it's a little bit intimidating sometimes to get up in front of a group, and I want to thank all of those people who kind of took an extra step in bravery to get up in front of a group and speak, and thank you. Some of your ideas were great. One idea, Madam Chair, that we did not hear was the fact that our friends over in Hillsborough had a successful program to increase their funding. And after our experience with Greenlight several years ago, perhaps we need to revisit doing something similar as a way to get our funding in line with the needs of our growing county. And we want to do everything we can to make sure that we can accommodate people on their way to work, on their way to shopping, on their way to the doctor's office, or wherever they need to go visit their kids or whatever. But in any case, we need to work on that, and hopefully some ideas will come about in the near term that will help us to get the kind of funding that we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Barkley. And to that point, a lot of lessons were learned in that green light exercise. So moving forward, we've got to be very judicious to make sure we don't make the same mistakes again. Commissioner Rice? Nothing? Commissioner Johnson?
I just want
Your
to...
mic, press your mic, please. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to assure the board members that CareerSource is a member of the Board of Transportation Disadvantaged. And there, among those members are a lot of the stories that you would like. And you were the chair for Transportation Disadvantaged, so you know how desperate many of the people are. And that may be where your stories come from, Commissioner Eggers.
That's certainly one part of it, there's no question.
So, but he's there, CareerSource, the gentleman is there from CareerSource, and I'm sure he would like to hear these suggestions. And we'll work on them very hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Justice? Nothing. Commissioner Cox?
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And one figure that resonated with me when you were speaking about the underfunding of our service was the overlooked $200 million for areas that are relative size. And we were in Austin, my wife and I, last month. They have a very vibrant system there, BRT, rail, and airport service every 15 minutes. And so we need to get on a stick. You know, for 1 million people, we're hurting the way that we serve the public. And I also want to speak to my friend, Ms. Driscoll, that I appreciate you joining the car free, and we've made some adjustments. I've even doing grocery shopping without a car. I put our grandkids' trailer on the back of the bike and go to the Publix. And so it gives a whole different view of how it would be to not have a vehicle. And I think it's so important that we improve this. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy we voted the way we did today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Gracie?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it was really a pleasure to be here today, but more importantly, I wanted to tell the board how much I admire your leadership and diversification in thinking. I'm new to this board, and I joined it precisely for the reason that Councilmember Driscoll mentioned a few meetings ago, because we must make a change in this county with respect to how we get around, just the bottom line. So I was encouraged by the board leadership, but more importantly, I was so moved by the public participation. I come from a city, Dunedin, about 35,000 people. So we see some public participation, but what I saw here today moved me, and it was remarkable to hear your stories and how we need to fit into your lifestyles. That's going to be a challenge, and I'm encouraged by the path forward that we're taking, and challenged by how the execution of a viable, long-term event this is going to be to our county. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for your leadership today.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Gracie. They are really profoundly received, because what you're really talking about here is changing the culture of our community. And trust me, if it was easy, it would have been done 50 years ago. So we have a very big, important job ahead of us, and it's going to require strong, competent, thoughtful leadership from all of us moving forward. And I know we can get there, so I'm looking forward to the conversations very much. So with that said, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
And there's a bus, and inside the bus.
Hey, Brad, I have a question. On this presentation here,
Hey,
I'm pretty excited. This number 6
I didn't mean to be clear, but I've gotten in trouble before, so when you put that on my Facebook page, I was like, shit.
Okay, where was that?
That's okay.
Congratulations. Where was
help today.
So my car's totaled.